results showed today, because I'm joined by the captain himself, the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, Reed Davis. Reed, test don't guess. What's going on, my friend?
Hey, Brendan, it's so good to see you again, man. We had an amazing conference. I think everyone's still high, because we sure had a good time. I was told by a couple of our vendors who go to a lot of conferences. They said that was as good as any functional medicine conference they've ever been to, with an even more enthusiastic crowd than they'd seen. So the quality was just absolutely amazing. And of course, our staff was outstanding. And, we put on a good show, man. So I almost can't wait for next year. Which, considering the fact that, yeah, go ahead, man.
Oh, it just, I'm, 1 year out. I can't wait for it, because you're so right. It was an amazing event. And, there are a lot of conferences out there, but the energy of our group, the passion, the enthusiasm, the inaugural conference a year ago was great, but this one was just next level. So I can't wait to see what year 3 will bring.
Yeah, well, you're going to be front and center there, my man. And there's a lot of other things going on in the health coaching world between now and then. Let's talk about some of that. Well, do we have any prepared questions, or are we just going to riff tonight on where we think it's going?
A little bit of both. So first and foremost, to everybody that's tuning in, we are getting back to, you can drop that word aspiring, just all caps, one word aspiring, into the chat box below. So that way you can get more information about the FDN certification course. So, what Reed and I are here to talk about tonight is really the future of health coaching, because right now in the industry, in kind of this allied healthcare space of functional medicine, holistic health coaching, fitness, everything in between. And so it's a very dynamic industry, and things are changing every day. And, we're really seeing we need more health coaches now, than ever before, with chronic disease statistics on the rise. And frankly, just conventional healthcare, it's not enough. And so really it is this industry that's leading kind of this functional health revolution. And that's where FDN, we are really the top dogs when it comes to lab guided health coaching. And, as Reed's shirt says, test don't guess. So Reed, I'd love to hear you speak to that a little bit, because you are undoubtedly a pioneer in this field, having developed a program that is unparalleled. There's nothing else quite like it. It's the original, it's the best, it's in the lead. And so we're really have this very unique opportunity to be leaders in this revolution. I'd love to hear you riff on that a little bit, being the leader of the FDN community.
Yeah, I'm really honored to be sitting here and to be able to talk from that perspective. I did start 20 years ago, before health coaching wasn't a word. I was a nutritionist and personal trainer, and I was really trying to help people. And the most amazing thing about working in a clinic, so I worked in a clinic, and pretty much I triaged for all the other providers and practitioners in there. I was really good at customer service, really. And so, I became the lead patient educator at the clinic. But what freaked me out was that everyone had already seen 6 or 8 or 10 different practitioners and spent a ton of money, because I would sit them down. What's your main complaint, and how often have you had it? And how often does it bother you? And then, how long has that been going on? And when they told me 5 years or 10 years, I was like, what? And then, because I didn't have any health problems myself, I couldn't imagine going more than a couple of months, let alone a couple of years or 5 years or 10 years with the same problem. And so my next question was, well, what have you tried so far? So I'd always ask, what's your main complaint? How often does it bother you? And how long has it been going on? And then what have you tried so far? And oh my God, the jumping through the hoops and doing this and trying that, and everything from seeing a doctor who often said, the most common thing they said was, my doctor said nothing's wrong with me. And by the way, the audience could sort of raise their hand or type in something, to see if you've ever heard that before, or if you know someone who has. The doctor says nothing's wrong with me. And so I I've gone here and I've gone there. Oh, just standing on your head in the corner with carrots up your nose. Just God knows what they've tried to get some relief or try to correct the problem. So I determined 20 years ago, even though I'm not a physician, that I was going to be the last person they needed to see. That's what started my career. So the reason I became what is now called health coach was because from a consumer protection or consumer advocate point of view, I figured these people were getting ripped off, and I thought I would do some good in the world by actually figuring out what was wrong with them. Now, that was biting off a whole lot, and I've been chewing on it ever since, trying to dial it down. But after 10 years, we had developed a system of investigation into the underlying causes and conditions. And then the protocols, what can that person go home and do for themselves? It's not what you do in the office that matters. We had chiropractic and acupuncture. And of course, I had all kinds of nutritional advice and a lot of supplements and things. None of that mattered if they didn't go home and behave themselves differently. And that's where health coaching was kind of uncovered or discovered, or I think developed right there in the office with what are you going to do between now and your next visit to the office. So I think, we pioneered a lot of the things. And of course, now there's all these amazing programs out there and you have your choice. If you're an aspiring, what would you say to do? Put aspiring in the box so we know if you're a health coach, you're aspiring health coach.
Yep, exactly.
So, you've got there's different avenues you can go. But a good friend of ours, Dr. Russell Jaffe, he owns a lab. He owns a supplement company. He goes around the country. He talks to doctors. Mostly these are doctor conferences. I don't speak at a lot of those. I speak at health coaching conferences. But he does. And he's talking to these functional medicine doctors, and they're saying they're crying out for someone who knows a thing or two and that can do the health coaching part. So even if it's just working in a doctor's office, there's tens of thousands of jobs. Matter of fact, he told me he thinks this country alone needs 250,000 health coaches. That would be just to satisfy the needs of doctors' offices. Now, that's one way you can go, and it's not exactly the way I would go. I mean, I've been an independent businessman almost my whole life. Even when I worked in different offices, I was an independent contractor, hired to do a job and go in there and do it. And what that means is that I'm not limited to 40 hours a week. And here's your pay. It's like, if I want to, I can work 80 hours. Or if one week, my mom's in town, I can work 20 hours. I like it like that. Mm-hmm. So there's different ways you can go out being a health coach. There's unlimited opportunities. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And
one of the things, though, go ahead. No, after you, Brendan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think everything you're saying is super interesting because the health coaching field is exploding right now. That's where IFM has a health coach program, and there's, this program, that program popping up. And I think what makes, FDN really kind of the leaders in health coaching, it's interesting because, hearing your story, there's so many parallels, and that's where sometimes I feel like I'm looking in a mirror when I'm hanging out with you, like a future mirror or something. Yeah. Because it's like I started in the future, maybe. Having started my career as a trainer and nutritionist as well. And I remember I was actually going to college. I knew that running lab testing and helping guide people to optimal health, I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't really know how to get there. I was considering dietetics. I was considering naturopathic or even conventional medical school. But they don't teach this stuff in university, unfortunately. And I remember it was at that point I actually discovered FDN, and I ended up dropping out of school. And, here we are having this conversation. But I also recall, like, when I first got into the FDN world, I really thought like functional medicine and FDN were basically kind of the same modality, just a difference of, treatment dictator versus more health coaching and guiding. But what I've really come to appreciate after, I lectured to all these doctors around the country, and what I see is what's called functional medicine is still very reductionistic and allopathic. And that's where the FDN health coach, we really, we use environmental and lifestyle intervention as our first line of defense, which that's the only way it can be. If you want to increase the health of an organism, if your goldfish is suffering, you should be thinking about the water in the bowl and the environment, not like, oh, what do I give the goldfish to feel better, right? And so that's where I really do find in the health coaching space, what never made sense to me starting my career as a trainer nutritionist was, how could I possibly get somebody to optimal health without using objective data to guide the process? And I think that is really the number one thing that separates FDN from every other health coaching program out there is we test, don't guess. We're using objective data about their physiology to guide their health coaching program. And we see outcomes that are nothing short of miraculous. So
they are miraculous sometimes, I mean, there's hidden complexities in people that make it impossible to know or predict the root cause sometimes. There's just hidden complexities.
Yeah.
But we have a system of sorting those out. Like we know to look specifically using lab work into the hormones, the immune system, digestion, detoxification, to name a couple pillars of health. When you identify opportunities there, you mentioned objective findings. Yeah. Well, we can, suggest to the person, hey, here's how you can bring this back into balance or restore this system or, whatever it might be. These tissues, these glands, these organs, these systems in the body. So, but we do it from, like you said, we take the big step back and do it very holistically. Again, it's back to what is that person going to do when they go home between visits? And that's the protocol. That's where the Dress for Health Success protocol came from. So it's the investigation, the test, don't guess. You got to know what you're looking at. And by the way, how motivating is it for a client, Brendan, when they get some data that no one else has ever shown them before? Talk about that for a minute.
It's literally, I remember when I was first really, starting to run lab testing on clients. That was my favorite part is, you see people that have lost hope because they've gone to medical doctors and said and heard, it's all in your head. There's nothing wrong with you. Go ahead and head out, maybe take this drug. And so they start losing hope. And then when somebody is able to slide that objective piece of paper across the table and it perfectly explains all of their symptoms and all of their health complaints after hearing that, like, the light in their eyes, like it's the most fulfilling thing in the world. Once you experience that one time, you're hooked in this career field forever.
Yeah, exactly. And then what's the first words out of their mouth when you explain, you see this here, this is out of balance, and that explains how you feel about this. We call that clinical correlation. Mm-hmm. And so, but what's the next words out of their mouth? What do I need to do to fix it?
Right.
Finally someone's sitting there with answers to their questions. One of the most dreadful words in modern medicine, I think, is this term idiopathic. It means we don't know. Like, hey, yeah, doc, you've diagnosed me with hypothyroidism. My thyroid is underproducing. Well, why? What can I do about it? What's wrong with my thyroid? Oh, it's idiopathic. In other words, we don't want to look for the underlying cause or condition, in my humble opinion. They're not looking. So that's what we do as health coaches. We test, and then we give you. And what Brandon, I loved how you just described it as a fishbowl. Again, back to this Russell Jaffe, Dr. Russell Jaffe. If you want to listen to a smart guy, he's way up there on the genius level. He says we're marinating in a toxic soup, and you're kind of like the frog or whatever it is in the bucket, you just turn the heat up and the frog's sitting there and pretty soon he's boiling. He doesn't jump out because it catches him by surprise. You end up my age with all of this ailment. This isn't working. That's not working. And they try to put you on meds and stuff. I mean, I'm not talking about me personally. I'm talking about people who are in that toxic soup, who aren't aware and who get told nothing's really wrong with you, or they finally get told, well, here's a pill that will alleviate your symptoms to some degree. You've got this condition and we don't know where it came from. Oh, it's probably just genetics, and you'll be on this medication for the rest of your life, and these kind of things. And people today, they're too smart for that.
Mm-hmm.
They're too smart for that. So yeah, I think it's amazing what we do. Test, and then that fishbowl is the true epigenetic program. Mm-hmm. Another thing Russell Jeffy says, he says epigenetics, your predispositions genetically are about 8% of our concern. The other 92%, well, there's other things in place that affect how those genes are expressed and how you're going to show up in our office, or why you showed up in our office. And it's rarely the genes. Again, there's a component there, but it's how you live that matters. Mm-hmm. So we get, that's what a health coach is supposed to do. What are your health goals? I want to get rid of these migraines. I don't want sinuses and allergies and asthma and, sleepiness, tiredness, fatigue, irritability, foggy thinking, overweight. The list never ends, right?
No,
but no, we so, hey, let's pick a couple things. What bothers you the most? Okay. Let us run some labs. Let's make some recommendations based on the data, the hard data. And if you can do those things, then you will take responsibility for your own health and move in the right direction. Again, we coach up the functions, hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, and so on. And we coach down the contributors to what we call metabolic chaos in our health, in the FDN coaching world. Coach down those contributors. If it's your way you live, that's pretty easily remedied. Mm-hmm. If it's the hidden stuff, the hormones, if it's food sensitivities, if it's parasites, bacteria, funguses, viruses, molds, that can all be sorted out too. So mm-hmm. we know where the clues lie. We know how to follow them, and we know how to do some corrective behavior. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that's our specialty. So that's why you said, I think we're the master's program. But there's some other good programs. There's some positive psychology stuff mm-hmm. that's very important. How to coach a person up has never been my personal style to coddle anyone. But, just whether it's my kids or, anybody, except myself. I like to coddle myself a little bit.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Be nice to read. That's what I got. Be nice to read, please. But everyone else, run some labs. Here's what you get to do now. Here's what's next. Let's get it done. Let's get on with it. That's probably the personal trainer in me. Just push them a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just come on. Let's get it together here.
Absolutely. And one thing that I've really come to appreciate a lot, because the problem that I see in kind of the current functional medicine model is, okay, so we went from running conventional testing and treating conventional testing with drugs and surgery to now a lot of these practitioners are running functional testing and treating the test results with supplements. And it's like, is that really that much better? And another thing I find is kind of the functional medicine paradigm, like doctors study disease, but we study health. And there's a huge difference between, okay, so you're diseased and you're ill, so let's, try to treat the things that are preventing you from living a quote unquote normal life. But that's not returning, that's maybe kind of getting them semi-symptom free, or maybe not out, kind of out of disease state or remission. But that's a far shot from getting them to the vibrant optimal health that I think we all strive for. So again, without that holistic environmental lifestyle approach with the way that we do it, or without having, that partner in that journey on the road to health, you can take all the Zyrtec you want, but if you don't know how to live a lifestyle that is hypoallergenic, then, you're going to just be popping all the antihistamines for the rest of your life. So it is by identifying those hidden stressors that contribute to the metabolic chaos. And as you said, coach up the functions that need to be coached up and coach down. And I love the way you say that too, of coaching up, coaching down. I don't know any doctors that do the coaching piece. So, high five out the door, take these, doses of these supplements, but it's just not enough. And so that's where you have created this tribe of holistic healers, that are able to be that last stop, that last person, that last professional that they should ever need, hopefully.
Well, gosh, you're like 100% dead on. There's a couple things there. First thing I have to say quite humbly is that the reason FDN is what it is today, the really strong community, is the people who took the course. Mm-hmm. Even 11 years ago when I first taught it, people who took the course, they wanted to hang out together and do peer reviews, and so FDN's become group sourced. Mm-hmm. I've to this day still interviewed every single graduate in the thousands and asked them, what can I do to make the course better? What would have made so? And a lot of people say, oh, it's just great the way it is, but I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, Reed, if you just would do this or just would do that, then maybe some good outcome thing. And we've done those things. It's so robust now. What started as a couple hundred slides, me going over them, it was the best thing some of those people had ever seen. But now it's a very robust program with all the mentoring and all of the support and the ascension plan into, well, what happens after I graduate? Am I going to be able to make any money doing this? So we have the business coaching, and it's just really a very robust thing. But it's due to you and the people like you, Brendan, who took it and made recommendations, because they had that, they get the vibe, they get what we're trying to accomplish. And so it is totally group sourced. I can't take all the credit for it. I did do the pioneering work. I hammered out the labs that we initially teach, your basic things, how to investigate hormone immune digestive detoxification through sheer volume of work, like not knowing what you're doing, but not being afraid to do a lot of it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know you couldn't, so I did it. Yeah. And then the protocol, not being handcuffed, first of all, like physicians are, they're handcuffed sometimes by their standard of care, by who's paying for it, which is usually insurance companies. We're cash practice. We don't take insurance. So there's a lot of sort of advantages and disadvantages that I might have had in those early 10 years. Mm-hmm. But the advantage in the last 10 is the people who've taken the course have contributed to it. And of course, our board of advisors and then of course our partners in the labs and the product companies. These are now our other stakeholders. They're all cheering us on too and want us to be successful. And, they cut us a lot of deals because we have numbers, and that means buying power and these kind of things. But the other thing I wanted to recognize what you just said, Brendan, which is really critical. Functional medicine should not be running the same labs and giving supplements instead of drugs, mm-hmm. for a couple of reasons. One, first of all, let's give a nod and actually a bow, if you will, to in some cases, doctors are the senior partner. They're in charge because you got someone with some serious stuff going on and their life is threatened. They need a doctor. I use this one somewhat humorously, but if you get off a plane from West Africa and your temperature's 105 and there's blood streaming down out of your eyeballs, don't call your nutritionist. You call a physician who's trained in emergency care and attendant care and heroic care, and you go get your medicine. Mm-hmm. You get your life saved. Mm-hmm. If you have a bone sticking out of the arm bleeding, you don't call your personal trainer. Not yet. You go get that fixed up. A good friend of ours, Tom O'Brien, big supporter of FDN, Dr. Tom O'Brien, says, if you're drowning, you need a life preserver. got to get the air, you got to get over to the shore, or the edge of the pool, wherever you're drowning. Now, once you're there, and that's where we can, take a person and walk them up the steps to health. Their life has now been saved. Doctors go, hey, did my job. Patched you up, go do some diet and exercise. Well, we're saying that doesn't always work. People aren't motivated. They don't have the data that they need. And that's where our health coaching is really strong.
Exactly.
Remarkable.
And part of it too, like I remember, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
I was just saying, I remember when I first started the program and I decided to take the plunge because I had done a lot of certifications before that, and I remember it was within like the very first module, and it was describing how like, okay, we have reactive medicine, we've got the drugs and surgery to save your life. And then on kind of the other side of the spectrum, we've got kind of generic health coaching, nutrition, fitness coaching, which is very necessary, very needed. We need that, but it's very general and it's not individualized. And I remember you said, FDN is the bridge that connects those two, and we own that bridge. And as soon as I heard that, I knew I was home and I was just full steam ahead, because that's kind of the reality with, where we're at in society is we do kind of have this healthcare spectrum. But we've got to be able to, tailor the program. And so now what we're seeing that I really, Dr. Tom, not O'Brien, different Dr. Tom that we met at the FDN conference a couple weeks ago. Well, now we're really starting to see a lot of physicians coming to us to have the freedom to help people in a more empowering, kind of less restricted way. So it's beautiful to start seeing now we are getting a lot of different licensed clinicians coming to our program to be able to set themselves free a little bit and be able to actually help people, reach full optimal health. So it's beautiful. And as we work towards our level 2, our level 3 curriculum, our multiple board certification qualifications that our program yields, the future is just extremely exciting for this industry and for our FDN community.
Yeah. Oh man, so true. So keep me posted on if anyone's asking any questions or even making some comments. Like, a lot of these BeLife things have good attendance, and others not so much. I'm not sure if we're archiving these or if they go out again and that kind of a thing. But I'm certainly willing to come on anytime and talk to the public or health coaches who are aspiring, as you say. You got to keep me posted on timing too, like how much time we have, because, again, back to what Dr. Jaffe says, there are hundreds, possibly hundreds of thousands of health coaches needed at various levels. Again, my personal preference is to have my own business because I had a job once. I've had a number of jobs. I've had a number of my own businesses. But the last job I had, I went back to school in my 40s, and I graduated from a law program at the University of San Diego, environmental law and business law. I went right to work for a corporation. Now, I excelled in that business. It was basically recycling, saving the planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees, and everything like that. And I was really on a mission. They, because I kind of insisted on it, they made me the senior vice president of the company. So I reported to one person, the president. Everyone else worked for me, and I grew that company by 60 employees in 2 years, by at least 25 recycling locations in California alone. And I went to Sacramento and lobbied for this pool of money that's up there available to recyclers and those people, and really had them on a mission. And I made millions of dollars, millions for them. And I got my salary, and that was the deal I struck. And I stuck in there. I didn't matter. I took a proprietary interest. I busted my ass. But I'd always been self-employed prior to that with my other businesses, and that was the last job I had. Everything else I do as an independent business person, and so that's the opportunity I'd say that you have as a health coach too. What you want to do is set an example. The best thing you could do if you want to be a health coach is live what you're going to preach, and run the labs on yourself. I can't tell you how many labs I've run and looked at this and that. Even after 20 years in the business, I went to Connecticut last week from San Diego to Connecticut to see this new functional medicine guy. He had some things he thought he could teach me. I flew, got a hotel room, went to his office the next morning, stayed 4 hours in his office. He drew a bunch of blood. He wants to test this, test that. And then I flew back. Actually, I got some therapies. I did an IV treatment. I did a hyperbarometric, and I did this thing you put on your head and look at lights and stuff. I just want to see what this guy's about. I'm still doing that stuff 20 years later and trying to walk the talk, like just keep hacking and hacking away. And so that's what you want to do as a health coach is start living a lifestyle that's healthy and happy. And for me, that means working for myself, not having to go. Doesn't mean I don't work a lot. Probably still put in more hours than most people with full-time jobs. But as Thomas Edison said, I never worked a day in my life. It was all too much fun to call it work. Something along those lines, he said, eh?
Right on. Well, yeah, it's an amazing thing. And that's the beautiful thing about FDN practitioners. We walk the walk, we talk the talk, we lead by example, and the future's never looked brighter. So certainly, we'll get wrapped up here. But again, for everybody listening, be sure you can drop the word aspiring, just all caps, so that way you can get more information about the FDN course. We do have amazing course counselors on staff that can help educate you more on the details of how it all works, because it's definitely a big commitment. You kind of have to treat it like going back to school and changing career paths, but there's really nothing like it. And if you really get fulfillment out of service and having that be your purpose, then there really is no better calling for you. But, Reed, this is such an amazing thing. I'm very excited. We had an enormously successful FDN conference in 2019. So now we got to finish off this year strong, and big things to come in 2020.
Yeah, we're going to build the tribe bigger, stronger, and we're going to set health coaching apart, really provide the leadership that it needs in many ways across the board, and give some people some stuff to shoot for. If you, want to help others, if you have any desire at all, if you aspire to do some good in the world and you're willing to walk the talk, do the work on yourself, then come and join Brendan and I and, a couple thousand other FDNs that all have the same goal. You got a great family of peers just waiting to put their arms around you.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, Reed, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I think this was a great way to kind of restart our real results show after the conference. And, as health coaching is really kind of the future of this revolution. So thanks for being a part of that, setting the example, and, really building this community that, we have now group sourced and turned into really kind of a life-saving operational system that we're going to continue to grow. It's a tribe and it's a movement, and we're just getting warmed up, right?
Yes, sir. I'm going to go cook a brisket now.
Wonderful. Enjoy your night, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Brendan. You're doing a great job. I really appreciate and respect your leadership in this area. You're right on, man.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Captain. Bye.